Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Deborah Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light. It was a busy weekend.
Your daughter,
my
daughter,
yes,
back to school.
That's right. So we took.
We have a picture?
I think we do.
This is from her 8:15 class this morning. Anna is in accounting. I said, prove to me that you're getting up for the 8:15, and she did.
Oh my goodness. Well, my daughter, actually, she had an 8 o'clock class too. But yesterday, yes, there we are in Philadelphia. Took Elaine back, and then we also...
Frozen tears on your face.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is so true. So it was, yeah, definitely busy, but it's, you know, glad that they're moving forward.
And then they'll move back in with us after school. I'm just kidding. Well, in just a moment, our morning light panel will go behind the headlines.
But first, here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. Lighthouse TV's host, Pastor Larry Burd, had a God-inspired mission to preach on every continent. He had been praying for 37 years to preach in Antarctica, the last stop. His mission was fulfilled, and he will share his journey.
And not just preaching to the penguins up there. He found people in Antarctica.
That was wonderful.
Well, in another strange twist connecting two of the country's biggest news stories of the past few weeks, some are calling the alleged murderer of healthcare insurance executive Brian Thompson Saint Luigi. They're pointing out insurance giants like State Farm, which canceled thousands of policies last summer in some of the neighborhoods now ravaged by Southern California wildfires. Luigi Mangione may be this generation's Bonnie and Clyde, or John Dillinger, or D.B. Cooper, criminals with a strange cult following. But we come back to this topic again. Does this expose deep confusion about what we consider right and wrong in our culture today?
I think it does expose deep confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That you have something as devastating as wildfires and people using it now for political advantage and then twisting the notion of what murder is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the occasion of a state funeral gives political observers plenty of fascinating moments. At the funeral of Senator John McCain, former President George W. Bush was seen sneaking candy to Michelle Obama. At the funeral for George H.W. Bush, watchers scrutinized the body language between the Clintons and President Trump. And at President Jimmy Carter's funeral, happy chit-chat between former President Barack Obama and President-elect Trump was shared. So if politicians are often friends off camera, why don't we demand more kindness and civility in public?
I think we do. We want it. It's interesting when people shared this photo, people said, oh, really? Is it possible, again, that we could have a sense of normalcy? But the truth is, most of these folks are friends off camera. And
that's right. Different political views.
We'd love to see more of it on camera, right?
Right.
Well, Hall of Fame college football coach Bill McCartney, known as Coach Bill, has died following a battle with dementia. He was 84 years old. Now, you'll remember him as the man who coached the Colorado Buffaloes to its only national championship. He's perhaps better known as the founder of Promise Keepers in 1990. That was that men's movement urging men to be accountable for their thoughts, words, decisions, and actions as followers of Jesus Christ and husbands and fathers. So as millions of men continue to live without close friendships or strong marriages or meaningful work, what can we learn from Coach Mac's call to action? We'll take these questions to the Morning Light panel this morning. And back with us, Pastor Joshua Robertson, Rock Church, and Black Pastors United for Education. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Follow you on social media, and you are everywhere. Yes. Jeff Wakeen in today with a beard.
Yes.
Yes. We'll ask our viewers to write in with their opinions of the beard, but we like it here. Yeah. We like it here. And you, sir, John Wetzel.
Hi, Jeff.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you.
Always good.
The former head of the Department of Corrections and now someone who is all over the country now speaking out on what we have to do to finish the mission that you really did start at Department of Corrections, to bring dignity and justice, kind of balancing that off for all the communities involved.
A little bit of humanity
goes
a long way.
Yeah. So let's talk about humanity. Saint Luigi is a title people are giving to Luigi Mangione, who many Pennsylvanians got to know because he had a brief stay in a Pennsylvania jail in Altoona. But the strange twist now, this conflation of events where people are seeing insurance policies canceled and now they're saying, hey, see, that's why they killed Brian Thompson. That's why this guy doesn't, deserve to live, doesn't deserve a family, doesn't deserve to have children. Strange, isn't it? Why are we so ambiguous morally about what is right and wrong in this moment? Why are we even merging the two conversations and saying, but?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it takes some audacity to not be the creator of a life, but feel you have the right to take a life. And so I think a piece of it is we're in a post-biblical world.
What do you mean by that?
We're in a world where I think people don't honor what the scriptures say concerning God and who man is. And so honoring the fact that God created life, and every single human being that is created because of his intention. And so to disrupt God's intention, it takes some audacity and pride. And I think that that's a state of where we are in the world today, where we think that we can trump, even God's rule and who God is by ending a life. I think that's very dangerous.
Jeff, you've been watching this story as well. What do you think?
I think it's our society has become in a place where we're looking for someone to blame for something. So we're victimized, right? So now I'm the victim, so I'm going to try to blame someone for it. And now it's so outrageous to me. I have this right to end a life because of something that's happened to me as a victim. And my position on it is I stand with the pastor on this. I mean, we're not the ones to judge. We're the ones to be obedient. And circumstances are, well, they're exactly that. They're circumstances. And I think God looks at us in terms of how we handle circumstances and how we behave in those circumstances. Tries to catch us doing what's right.
I hear people out there saying, yeah, but the justice system, it takes too long. People wait long years for sentencing, and then they get into prison, and then we find out from DNA evidence that they didn't really do it. And all. There's so many reasons people don't trust the justice system. Is this moment playing into that, or have we just lost a big vision of what the justice system is?
Yeah, well, I think this is a reflection of the brokenness of our society. Like, there's no context under which you put some blasphemous picture of someone who murdered someone. It's a statement of brokenness, quite frankly. Listen, as Christians, we have two things we're responsible for, right? To love our God with all our heart, all our strength, and all our mind, and love our neighbors as ourselves. And neighbor, you can start defining that by enemy. So it's not fun, it's not easy to do, but that's what we do. So in these circumstances, yes, there's reason to be angry at insurance companies. And some of the brokenness of society is things like that, where people who we're supposed to take care of, who the church was literally designed to take those who are disappearing, they're getting disproportionately impacted by it, and then couple it with where are people getting the information. They're not getting it from their church on a regular basis. This is a reflection of the brokenness of society, and we view it through our phones and through this. So that's that one reality, but there's always been a different reality, right? And we have to choose which world we're going to live in.
Josh, you got to this heart of the idea of people being made in the image of God and deserving, just by birthright, dignity and respect. We're watching this moment last week. Lots of people getting so excited about seeing these two men give a handshake, Mike Pence and President Trump, and then seeing President Obama and President Trump doing something normal. And everybody kind of breathes a sigh of relief, like, oh, it's going to be okay. You've been in these environments lately with on both sides of the camps trying to bring people together on big ideas. People are frustrated with people playing rivals for the big screen or the little screen, but really being friends. What's going on here?
I see it as a glimmer of hope. When I first seen the clip of, for instance, President Trump and former President Barack Obama, I was encouraged, because humanity says at the end of the day, when all the politics are to the right or to the left, we're humans. We're on this human journey together. And so to watch them who are rivals show a moment of friendship or camaraderie, I think is a very positive thing. At the same time, I do think we need to demand that they are civil and that they are respectful when they are campaigning and doing their work, because that's who we should be as a people. So I think both can be a good thing, right? What you see in private in that moment, I think, is what we should expect in public. But I was encouraged by that. I never thought I would see that. You would think from how you hear them speak about each other publicly that they would never have a moment where they're laughing and just being in a moment.
And I'll just say, you're someone who practices what you preach. I won't give the circumstance or the name, but you received a call from a major candidate for president, and you told that individual, keep it in the rails, be kind, be civil, and and perhaps they're listening to you. We'll see. We'll see.
see.
Listen, I want to move to the final topic, and that is Promise Keepers. Coach Mack. We heard this name in the '90s. He was kind of. It was kind of a strange movement, right? Because he was, his 7 promises, here's one of them. Our promise keeper is committed to pursue vital relationships with few other men, understanding that he needs brothers to help him keep his promises to his wife, to his children, to his church, to community. Where are we at from the 90s to today? Is it, Promise Keepers is still there. Coach Mack is receiving his eternal reward now. Right. What's your sense of where men are today and the need for organizations like Promise Keepers or accountability?
I think there's a huge need for an organization like Promise Keepers, and a huge need for men to be accountable to their spouses, to their best friends, to their colleagues. But most,
by the way, don't have a best friend. I mean, most men don't.
Right. And but more importantly, I think this accountability to God. I mean, you know, and I don't claim to be perfect at this by any means. I get it right some days, right? If I'm right with God, then I can be right here. Mm-hmm. But if I can't be right with God, I can't be two different people. I can't, I'm not being honorable if I'm one person in one place, but then I pretend to be a different person in another place just because I've been put in a position of authority or a circumstance that's tempting, right? And so accountability, I think, also comes out clearer when we surround ourselves with people that are like-minded, where we can be held accountable, where we can say, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this issue right now. I need help. Help, please, you know. But
Open,
can I turn here
honest,
first?
Right.
And if I can't turn here, can I turn here?
Right. You saw this. You saw thousands of broken men come through the correction system. Is that the story, men who are not personally accountable, or relationships and friendships who are deep but maybe in the wrong ways?
Well, I've seen this from every perspective. I was a college football player in '90. I'm a high school football coach. I was a college football coach, and I've seen this that spirituality, fellowship of Christian athletes around athletics forever. I would say the need is more profound today than it ever has been. I think the need for men to step up in our society and take care of these young men who are unfathered, who need that guidance. And it's difficult to be a young man, especially a young man of color in America today, and you don't have the guidance, and you have all the emotion and anger and understanding how to do that, understanding how to support each other, these kinds of things. But athletics, I mean, recently, Susquehanna Township, they opened a coaching position in the community. The outrage from Coach Joe Heaton, who was a college teammate of mine, actually, when you saw what the community was saying, he closes the paternal gap. One person coaching a team. Tyshawn Pollard coaches at CDs. These guys can navigate large groups of kids. I mean, it's critical.
That's the final word. It is critical, a mission to bring dads and men back into community. Well, thanks to our panel for joining us today. Coming up next on Morning Light, Lighthouse TV's beloved host, Pastor Larry Burd, was on a mission to preach in every continent. Antarctica was the last stop. Deborah will talk to him about his journey. You're watching Morning Light on Lighthouse TV.
Lighthouse TV's host, Pastor Larry Burd, preached on 6 of the 7 continents. Antarctica was the last stop. After 37 years of praying, Pastor Burd fulfilled his mission. And Pastor Burd, we talked with you last week about your trip to Antarctica. Share your journey with us.
Well, I tell you what, Deborah, it was an interesting journey. When you go across the Drake Passage, which is from the tip of South America, where the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans come together, you have to travel 600 miles to get to Antarctica.
That's a long way.
It's a long way, and that water has actually been known as the most violent water in the world because of all the cross currents and nothing to block it for 600 miles. So going over, they say you can have the Drake Lake or the Drake Shake. Going over, I thought we had a good bit of shaking, but people said, no, it was more like, the lake effect. Coming home, we definitely had not only the rocking, but sometimes the ship would pitch, go like this.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm very grateful. You have to sign all these waivers and everything when you go to Antarctica because it's so dangerous. And I didn't even tell my wife till I came home some of the things, but it's quite an adventure to get to Antarctica.
So once you were there, I mean, I've read that this is really the perfect time to travel there because there's like 20.
It's the only time.
Really, 20 to 24 hours of daylight, which is really amazing. Really, what caught your attention?
That was one thing, because I wasn't used to, days being that long, but we had to close the shades in our little rooms. My roommate and I'd close it at night, because it'd be 11:30 at night. I think there's only like 3 or 4 hours when it actually gets darker, and the rest of the time it's light. That caught my attention. Also, it wasn't nearly as cold as I thought it would be. The temperatures were about like Pennsylvania in the 30s. One day it was 38.
Oh, wow.
38 degrees. But if you go in the winter, there are places in Antarctica it can get down to 128.6 Fahrenheit degrees below zero.
Oh my goodness.
That was recorded in 1986, but there are temperatures very close to that most of the time in our June, July, and August, because Antarctica is exact opposite. So now that's their summer, December, January, February. That's the only time you want to go to Antarctica.
And it was your goal to go there to preach.
Yes, it was. And this all started, Deborah, way back in 1987. I was reading in Luke chapter 24, verse 47, where Jesus said that repentance and forgiveness of sins should be preached in his name among all nations. And I got into this little debate with the Lord. And Deborah, I never win in a debate with him. I said, there's no way I can go to all nations of the world. You can't put that burden on my heart. And then it was almost like the Lord was saying, okay, now go with me to the end of Mark's gospel. And there he said in Mark 16:15, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. I had no desire to travel other than the United States. Occasionally I'd get an invitation to go to Canada, and I'd say, Lord, I'd just as soon stay in the U.S. But there was a gap in my ministry. I loved missionaries. I'd let them speak in our churches, but I'd never been to the mission fields to see their work firsthand. And so I said, that day, October 30th, 1987, I wrote a one-sentence prayer request in my Bible, and I said, I pray for the privilege of preaching the gospel on all the continents before I die. And I wrote down the names of the 7 continents, put a check mark after North America, and I said, Lord, if this is of you, you open the doors. I only want to go if it's your will, not my will.
And we'll have to take a break, and I'm anxious to hear the second part of this, as far as how God really led you to going to all 7 continents. Stay with us. We will be right back. Welcome back. Pastor Larry Burd fulfilled his mission to preach on all 7 continents, Antarctica being the last one on the list. He shares how he spread the gospel while there. So, Pastor Burd, 1987 is when you said, okay, it is my mission to go preach on every continent. Take us through that.
Well, I just said to the Lord, okay, it's actually his mission, because that's the Great Commission, and that is to go into all the world. And I said, Lord, if you open the doors and put it into my heart that this is what you want, then I will go. So in 1987, I wrote that in my Bible. 1 year later, I got an invitation to go to Cameroon, West Africa. And I was gone for a whole month. I preached 36 times in different places throughout Cameroon. I said, okay, that's Africa. You keep opening the doors and I'll go. 4 years later, 1993, I got an invitation to go to Japan. And our North American Baptist Conference headquarters heard I was going to Japan, and they said, can you stop in the Philippines? And I said, yes. So that was 93. 94, I got an invitation to go to Brazil. 95, I went to Albania. And Deborah, from that point on, God opened the doors in Russia, in China, in India. I mean, check them off. So this was the last of the 7 continents, Antarctica. And I have been praying since 1987, 37 years, that someday I could actually go to Antarctica. and be a witness for the Lord. But my deepest desire was to actually preach on the continent of Antarctica, and it happened.
Now, this was your second try to go there.
Second try. In 2023, December 3rd, Pastor Gary Hartman from Bethlehem and I flew to Ushuaia, which is the very tip of South America. That's the southernmost city in the entire universe. We got on a ship December 3rd, which was Sunday afternoon, but the 4th, 3 o'clock in the morning, Deborah, a wave apparently hit the side of that ship. Everyone was awakened. I mean, literally, it felt like it could tip that ship over.
Oh, my goodness.
My cell phone goes flying across the room, and Gary's glasses go flying across the room. And all of a sudden, it got calm. The captain went back into what's called the Beagle Channel. We sat there for 3 days. They have to monitor the weather constantly because of the violent winds and the waves on the Drake Passage. And the captain came one day and gave a speech, and he said to the passengers, "We are not going to make it. We're sorry." He said, "I've been across the Drake Passage many times in the last 7 years." They'd worked for this particular company. He said, "I have never seen a more violent storm than this one." The good news is they gave us a full refund, which was almost unheard of. So I said, "Lord, maybe next year." And so that happened.
It happened.
Yes.
That is so wonderful. So what did you preach while you were there?
Well, let me tell you this. I went to the person who was in charge of the expedition, to the lectures. He's kind of like the guy in charge. And I said to him, I said, I'm a pastor, and I would love to be able to maybe do a worship service on this. Well, he said, it's not that kind of ship. And I said, well, maybe I could do a Bible study. He said, we'll get back to you. A couple days went by, he didn't get back to me. So I thought, well, I'll just check one more time. So I said to him, I'd be happy to do a Bible study. I could teach people about ice and snow and animals and what the Bible says about, a place like Antarctica. Well, he said, we'll get back to you. He never got back to me. On this ship, which was a completely different company, I sort of built up a relationship with, I'm an outgoing person, so I talk with everybody. And so I got to talk with this guy that's in charge of it. And I said to him one day, I said, Sunday's coming. And I said, I would think there are people on this ship that would like to worship. I'm a pastor. I'd be happy to do a worship service if you would like. I brought some music with me. And he said, I don't think there would be any problem with that. He said, we'll announce it for those who want to come. Deborah, 20 people came. Oh, my goodness. And I had the privilege of preaching to them. I shared my personal testimony of how Jesus Christ changed my life. I shared my story of what brought me to Antarctica. And I shared some scientific facts from the Bible, because there's a lot of scientists on a ship like this. But I preached. Deborah, I said, oh, God, this could only be you.
Absolutely. Oh, my goodness. How can we pray for the people there?
I just think that people's eyes would be open to the beauty. The heavens declare the glory of God. The icebergs, the snow. How can you be so closed? I had one man come and confront me one morning. I was having my devotions in the lounge on the ship because it was quiet. He came over to me. He knew I was a Christian. I'd met him before. He said, you people, you don't believe in science. You don't believe in evolution. And he really went off on me. And I thought, all he sees is science. This all just happened. Evolution, just the Big Bang and all these beautiful icebergs and all these penguins and everything, they just happened. It takes more faith, Deborah, to believe it just happened than it does to believe there's a creator.
Absolutely. Pastor Burd, thank you so much for sharing your trip with us, and
I'm
so
very
glad you were
happy.
able to do this.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share it.
This reminder, Pastor Bird's new show, Deep Waters, premieres on Lighthouse TV today following Morning Light. Stay with us. We are back right after the break. Welcome back. Coming up tomorrow on Morning Light, a Pennsylvania ministry is dedicated to guiding people in recovery toward lasting sobriety by going outside the four walls of the church. Learn how this ministry is making a difference by providing support and practical needs. That's a look at what's coming up tomorrow on Morning Light. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts.
Thank you, Deborah. Well, it was the handshake watched around the world. Former Vice President Mike Pence standing to shake the hand of his former running mate and boss, President-elect Donald Trump. With all that transpired between the two men, some couldn't imagine a moment like this. But when I interviewed Mike Pence in December, he told me he prayed. He prayed regularly for President Trump, a promise he made before they parted in 2021. He said, "I'll never stop praying for you." But that command to pray for those with whom we disagree isn't optional. It's part of being a Christ follower. Remember, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who despitefully use you. And then there's this line, and pray for them. Showing respect, even honor, is possible when the power of Christ is what's animating you. What an example for the rest of us. For Deborah and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for watching this morning. Be sure to check on your neighbors, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.